here is all 17 Bounty Pack 2 items ranked in their entirety. S tier, the Laser Discer. Despite this thing not shooting a laser and not shooting a disc, as it stands, it's one of the highest damage TDR throws in the game and easily one of, if not the best items from the new DLC drop. If you want to get your hands on this gun, you can find it from Sturm and Drang. The Roulette Pistol. This is an homage to the Sleeping Giants effects from Borderlands 3, where on reload, you'll get a random buff to the gun. It might be faster fire rate, more damage, etc, etc. This gun very quickly gets out of hand, and it is an extremely fast clearing gun for all mobbing encounters, and if you want to get one, it drops from Vortex. Broken Wings. This SMG is a major vouch, mainly because it is a multi-projectile splash SMG which has incredible potential with high cal 3, much like any splash weapon does. The only downside to this gun is that as the magazine empties, it will slow down in fire rate, but if you get the Ripper Mag, it should get rid of that. And if you want the Broken Wings, it drops from the Stone Demon. A tier, the Doe Shot Shotgun. This is easily one of, if not the most fun weapons to use on the list, and it's also a spray and pray shotgun. It is extremely powerful and so good that I even swapped it out onto my Aimman to use, and it is just an absolute blast. Try to get this with a COV mag if you can, and if you want to get your hands on the Doe Shot, you can get it from Vortex. The Tank Buster. This is easily one of the slower weapons on this list, but it hits extremely hard. The whole gimmick of the gun is that every time you shoot, nearby enemies will be healed for a damage amount, but it will also give that extra damage to the gun. You will almost never see the downside of this effect, meaning this is a win-win gun for you to use, and on UVH6 it will one-shot most mobs on any character. If you want to get it, you'll find it in the vault card. The Mercurius. Now, this isn't going to be a gun for every character, and on my Aimman, I don't find it doing too great for me, but I've heard that on Rafa this thing is disgusting, and I have no reason to disagree based on how it does perform on my Aimman. It scales off of your movement speed, and the only thing you have to be aware of is that when you stand still with this gun, it actually nerfs the base damage of it, so just be aware of that. But if you want to get the Mercurius, it drops from Chiselbella. The Shala Shaska. Think of the Anarchy, but in pistol form, and instead of gaining damage with each reload, instead you'll gain an extra ricochet. This thing will clear out hordes of mobs in seconds. It is gross, it is disgusting, it is pinpoint accurate, and it also kind of looks like the trick shot from Borderlands 3, so how can I not rank it high? If you want to get the Shalashaska, do the new world event for the Ordinite Processor, and it will drop from one of the bosses at random. B tier, the Eigenburst. This is the first pearlescent on this list, and it's being argued by a lot of people to be the best of the 3 pearlescents, and I don't entirely disagree. That being said, much like most things on this list, this gun can do absolutely disgusting things, and if you want to get it, do the Ordinite Processor Pearlescent World event, and you'll get it from one of the bosses. The Flea Bag. This item takes a little bit of a skill hurdle to use correctly, but if you know how to use it, it is very fun to use in mobbing. This is another gun where it's going to be semi-auto, so it's only going to fire as fast as you can pull the trigger. So if you can, get the right magazine so that you can just hold down the trigger and send it into full auto mode, and you'll be having an absolute blast. If you want to get the Flea Bag, you'll find it from the Stone Demon. Bubbles. This gun shoots bubbles, and that is basically the entire way that you market it. It is a gun that shoots bubbles, and I think it's pretty fun, but the reason why I have it in this tier is because to me it just doesn't feel very satisfying to use. It's not a gun that I would personally reach for, but you can still do some very cool stuff with it, and it's decently powerful. If you want to get it, you'll find it from Chiselbella. C tier. We only have one item in C tier, and it's the Conflux. Now, I like the idea of the Conflux a lot on paper, and by no means is it a bad weapon. In fact, you can melt a lot of bosses with it, but being a sniper and the setup that it takes to get it to dealing the damage it needs to do, I think a lot of casual players are going to be turned away from it. That being said, if you're a higher skill player and you want to play around with some synergies with sniper rifles, I do recommend the Conflux, as you can do some very cool stuff with it. You can find it from the Ordinite Processor World event, much like you can with the Eigenburst Pearl. D tier, the Hand Cannon. If this weapon just did decent damage or didn't do such annoying ticks the way it does, then I would rank it much higher. But this is a sticky weapon which kind of incentivizes you to not use it like you typically would a sticky weapon, and the damage leaves a lot to be desired. It's not a gun that I can actually recommend to you to use in your builds, and more so one that I would just say to get for your collection. It's just cool to have, and that's about it, but I would never use this. If you want to get it though, you can find it from the Stone Demon, or by getting it 100% of the time from the DLC. The Hopscotch Shield. This is basically a black hole shield, but worse, and that's a really, really big shame. I would like to see this thing get way more radius on the singularity, and I would also like to see the singularity damage the enemies it pulls in properly. When we get takedowns, and hopefully with some much needed love, this shield could be a serious contender for one of the better mobbing shields in the game. But until then, it's just kind of mediocre. If you want to get it though, you can find it from the Stone Demon. E tier, the Hair Trigger Shotgun. The unique effect of this weapon is that you can hold down the trigger and release when you want the projectile to detonate, and it will make a spherical damage zone that will damage enemies inside. It's a little clunky to use, and the damage is really, really bad. Oftentimes I'll actually find myself downing myself more than killing any enemies with it, and so for that reason I have to put it low on the list, but that's a real shame because I do like this gun. I think if Gearbox removed the self-damage, we'd be in a much, much better place. But regardless, if you want to actually get the hair trigger for yourself, you'll find it from Sturm and Drang. The Arctan. I really, really, really want to love this gun, but it just doesn't feel good to use. The damage isn't the worst thing in the world, but even that could deal with some love. But overall, the biggest crime of this weapon is that it just does not feel good to use in combat, no matter what mode you have it on. But regardless, if you want to get it, you'll find it in the vault card. And finally, F tier, the Mercredi. Okay, so this is a gun that currently does not get any bonuses from gun damage. It is completely and utterly bugged. But let's just assume it wasn't. Every time you reload this gun, it's going to cycle through firing modes. It may behave like an assault rifle, a pistol, or a shotgun. It might even burst. But this just doesn't feel too good, and I can't help but feel like without a ton of extra damage added on top of it, this is never going to be a good option for someone's build. If you want to get your hands on it though, you'll find it in the vault card. And finally, the Countermeasure. They should genuinely rename this item to the Counterweight, and unless anybody has any objections, potentially the buoy, this is the worst ordnance in the game. The whole idea of the Counterweight is that it's supposed to shoot some flares up into the sky, which will distract enemies so that you can take them out. First of all, this is useless. You know what else is a really good distraction? Throwing a couple fire pots and watching the room disappear. This is a grenade which purposely slows down encounters, and apart from a melee build, but even then that would be really inconvenient, I don't see why anyone would want to use this. But let's just say that you did want to use this. The biggest crime of this grenade is that when you do, quote, distract the enemies, it only works for around 2 seconds, and the enemies can even shoot the flares out of the sky, disabling the grenade entirely. But outside of all of this, the biggest problem with the Counterweight is that sometimes it just does not work, and enemies will straight up nail you the moment they see you throw it, and they won't even lock onto it at all. They'll just keep going after you. So, in my opinion, it is by far the worst ordnance in the game, and by far the worst item on this list. But if you want it, you'll find it in the vault card. And there we go. That's every single item from the new DLC ranked. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Keep it civil, and have a great day.